Let history speak. In the heart of ancient Greece, a land filled with myths, gods, and heroes, there was an event that would become a symbol of unity, competition, and human achievement. It all began in a small, idyllic valley called Olympia, where the first Olympic Games were held. The year was 776 BC, and little did the people of Greece know that this event would go on to shape the course of history. The birth of a legend. In ancient Greece, the world was a wild and untamed place. The gods ruled from Mount Olympus, and their whims could bring either prosperity or disaster to the mortal world. The Greeks, a proud and competitive people, were constantly seeking ways to honor their gods and prove their worth. It was in this context that the idea of the Olympic Games was born. The story goes that the first Olympic Games were held in honor of Zeus, the king of the gods. Zeus was a powerful and feared deity, and the Greeks believed that by holding these games, they could gain his favor and protection. The games were also seen as a way to bring together the various city-states of Greece, which were often at odds with one another. The early Olympic Games were a far cry from the modern-day spectacle we know today. There was only one event at first, the stadium race, a short-distance foot race that was about 192 meters long. The athletes, all men, women, were not allowed to participate, would strip naked and run in the hot sun, their bodies glistening with oil. The winner of the stadium race was not only given a wreath of olive leaves, but also a place of honor in Greek society. The stadium race was more than just a physical competition. It was a test of character, courage, and determination. The athletes trained for months, if not years, to prepare for the games. They would run, jump, and lift weights, all in the hopes of becoming the best. The training was brutal, and many athletes would suffer injuries along the way. But the rewards were great. The winner of the Olympic Games was considered a hero, a symbol of Greek excellence. He would be celebrated in his city, state, and his name would be remembered for generations to come. The Games also had a political significance. They provided a platform for the city-states to show off their power and prestige, and to build alliances with one another. As the years went by, more events were added to the Olympic Games. There were the pentathlon, which included running, jumping, discus throwing, javelin throwing, and wrestling. The boxing matches, where the athletes would fight with leather straps wrapped around their hands. And the chariot races, which were a dangerous and exciting spectacle. The pentathlon was a true test of an athlete's all-around abilities. The athletes had to be fast, strong, and agile. They would run the stadium race, then jump as far as they could, using weights to help them gain momentum. Next, they would throw the discus and the javelin, and finally, they would engage in a wrestling match. The winner of the pentathlon was considered the most well-rounded athlete in Greece. The boxing matches were brutal affairs. The athletes would fight until one of them was knocked out or gave up. There were no rules in the early days of boxing, and the athletes would often suffer serious injuries, but the crowds loved it. They would cheer and shout as the athletes pummeled each other, and the winner would be hailed as a champion. The chariot races were perhaps the most exciting event of all. The chariots were pulled by horses, and the drivers had to be skilled and brave. The races were held on a large track, and the chariots would speed around the track at breakneck speeds. There were often crashes and spills, and the drivers would risk their lives to win. The Olympic Games also had a religious aspect. Before the Games began, there would be a series of sacrifices and ceremonies to honor the gods. The athletes would swear an oath to compete fairly, and the Games would be overseen by priests. The religious ceremonies added a sense of solemnity and importance to the Games. The ancient Greeks believed that the gods were watching the Games, and that they would reward the athletes who showed the most honor and respect. The Games were not just about winning. They were about competing with integrity and sportsmanship. The athletes were expected to follow a strict code of conduct, and those who violated the rules would be punished. As the popularity of the Olympic Games grew, so did the number of participants. Athletes from all over Greece would come to Olympia to compete. The Games became a symbol of Greek unity, and they helped to foster a sense of national identity among the Greeks. But the Olympic Games were not without their challenges. There were often disputes between the city-states over the rules of the Games, and there were even instances of cheating. The organizers of the Games had to be vigilant to ensure that the competitions were fair and that the athletes followed the rules. Despite these challenges, the Olympic Games continued to thrive. They became an integral part of Greek culture, and they would go on to inspire future generations. The spirit of the Olympics, with its emphasis on competition, unity, and honor, would live on long after the fall of ancient Greece. The Olympic Games also had an impact on the development of Greek art and literature. Artists would create sculptures and paintings of the athletes, capturing their strength and beauty. Poets would write verses about the heroes of the Games, celebrating their achievements. The Games became a source of inspiration for the Greek people, and they helped to shape their cultural identity. In the centuries that followed, the Olympic Games would face many changes. The political landscape of Greece would shift, and the Games would be influenced by the rise and fall of different city-states. But the core values of the Olympics, the spirit of competition and unity, would remain the same. As the Greek world expanded, the Olympic Games would also attract attention from other cultures. The idea of a large-scale sporting event that brought people together from different regions was a novel concept, and it would inspire similar events in other parts of the world. The Olympic Games in ancient Greece were not just a sporting event, they were a cultural phenomenon. They represented the best of what the Greek people had to offer, and they would leave a lasting legacy on the world. The Golden Age and Decline. The Olympic Games in ancient Greece entered their golden age in the 5th and 4th centuries BC. This was a time of great prosperity and cultural achievement in Greece. The city-states were at the height of their power, and the Olympic Games became a showcase for Greek excellence in all fields, not just sports. During this golden age, the Olympic Games became more elaborate and grand. The stadium at Olympia was expanded to accommodate larger crowds, and new facilities were built for the athletes. The events became more diverse, with the addition of events such as the long-distance running races and the pangration, a combination of boxing and wrestling. The pangration was a brutal and unforgiving event. There were very few rules, and the athletes could use almost any means to defeat their opponents. Kicking, punching, and choking were all allowed, and the only things that were prohibited were biting and gouging the eyes. The pangration was a true test of an athlete's strength, endurance, and fighting spirit. The athletes in the golden age of the Olympics were some of the most famous and revered figures in Greek society. They were seen as role models, and their achievements were celebrated in poetry, art, and literature. Athletes like Milo of Croton, a famous wrestler, and Leonidas of Rhodes, a multiple-time Olympic champion in the stadium race, became household names. Milo of Croton was known for his incredible strength. He was said to have carried a fully grown bull on his shoulders, and he dominated the wrestling competitions at the Olympics for many years. His success at the Games made him a hero in his hometown, and he was showered with gifts and honors. Leonidas of Rhodes was a remarkable athlete. He won the stadium race at 4 consecutive Olympic Games, a feat that has never been matched. His speed and endurance were legendary, and he was admired by people all over Greece. The Olympic Games also had a significant impact on the economy of Greece. The city-states would invest heavily in the games, building new stadiums and facilities, and providing support for the athletes. The games would attract tourists from all over Greece and beyond, who would come to watch the competitions and participate in the festivities. This led to an increase in trade and commerce, and the cities that hosted the games would benefit from the influx of money. The festivals that accompanied the Olympic Games were also a major attraction. There would be music, dancing, and feasting, and people would come together to celebrate the achievements of the athletes. The festivals were a time of joy and celebration, and they helped to create a sense of community among the Greek people. But as with all things, the golden age of the Olympic Games could not last forever. In the 3rd century BC, Greece began to face a series of challenges. The rise of the Macedonians, led by Philip II, and his son Alexander the Great, would change the political landscape of Greece. The Macedonians conquered many of the Greek city-states, and the independence of Greece was threatened. The Olympic Games, which had been a symbol of Greek unity and independence, were now under threat. The new rulers of Greece were more interested in military conquest and political power than in the traditions of the Olympic Games. The Games began to lose some of their luster, and the quality of the competitions declined. In addition to the political changes, there were also social and economic factors that contributed to the decline of the Olympic Games. The Greek city-states were facing financial difficulties, and they were no longer able to invest as much in the Games. The number of participants began to decrease, and the events became less competitive. The rise of Christianity in the later centuries also had an impact on the Olympic Games. The early Christians saw the Games as a pagan event, with its roots in the worship of the Greek gods. They believed that the Games were immoral and that they should be abolished. In 393 AD, the Roman Emperor Theodosius I, who was a Christian, banned the Olympic Games. He saw them as a threat to the Christian faith, and he wanted to eliminate all pagan practices from the Roman Empire. The Olympic Games, which had lasted for over 1,000 years, came to an end. The ban on the Olympic Games was a significant blow to Greek culture. The Games had been a source of pride and identity for the Greek people, and their disappearance was felt deeply. The stadiums at Olympia fell into disrepair, and the traditions and rituals associated with the Games were forgotten. But the spirit of the Olympics did not die. Even after the ban, the idea of a large-scale sporting event that brought people together continued to inspire. In the modern era, the Olympic Games would be revived, and they would once again become a symbol of global unity and competition. The story of the ancient Olympic Games is a story of human achievements, unity, and the power of tradition. It is a story that has inspired generations, and it continues to inspire us today. The ancient Greeks may be long gone, but their legacy, in the form of the Olympic Games, lives on. If you like this story, please follow, like, and share it.